Hey fam, and welcome to the Happily Ever Active podcast, where Disney magic meets health and wellness. I'm Stephen Kabibi, your friendly personal healthcare companion, and I help travelers like you physically prep for your next vacation so that you can walk more, hurt less, and enjoy the magic without burnout. If you're listening to this in real time, you already know, but the 2026 EPCOT International Flower Garden Festival is in full force. It kicked off on March 4th and runs all the way through June 1st. Personally, I am hyped. I mean, this is arguably the most beautiful time of the year to visit, with the park transforming into vibrant tapestries of color all over. And then, the food, the drinks, the vibes, completely different, unique, maybe even unmatched compared to the rest of the year. And for the parents listening, yes, Tomater and Lightning McQueen are back as topiaries in front of Connections Eatery, so make sure to get that photo op with the kids. This is the kind of atmosphere that makes you want to soak in every single detail, from the first step that you take getting onto Epcot's grounds to the burst of fireworks during Luminous at the end of the day. But here's the reality check. Yes, we love Disney. Yes, we love the festivals, but a lot of us just hate how we feel at 4:30 in the afternoon. For parents, the most magical place on earth can sometimes feel like the most exhausting place on earth. You know the feeling. You're halfway around World Showcase. Your lower back is screaming from standing all day on the concrete. You're bloated from having 3 different snacks in the span of an hour from 3 different food booths right next to each other. The Florida humidity, it is hitting you, and it's feeling like a wet blanket, and you're just ready to crash long before the fireworks even start. What starts as a dream vacation often ends up with aching feet, a stiff back, and a level of fatigue that just feels bone deep. To the unsuspecting guest that's unaware of how to navigate the physical demands of a massive theme park like Epcot, this is likely to end their day in burnout and pain, just ready to crash before the fireworks even begin. But it does not have to be this way. Today, we're going to be changing the narrative. I'm going to give you a physical therapist's perspective on navigating the Flower and Garden Festival so that you can actually have fun. You can be that energetic parent rather than being the one that's searching for a bench, wanting to rest, or wanting to take ibuprofen every few hours. All right, before I move on, make sure to find everything, including my pocketbook guide, Disney Ready, your pain-free park survival guide, over at fitforthemagic.com. And if you learned something useful on this episode, please, please, please share the show and tell a friend. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. Here we go. So what is the core problem? Well, it's a specific recipe for disaster that happens so often, especially at Epcot. You combine sodium-rich foods with adult beverages, with the Florida heat and humidity, and yes, it is not even springtime as I'm recording this podcast episode, but it is hot and it's humid right now. So when it's hot and humid, your body's blood vessels expand because of the heat. Alcohol acts as a diuretic, which accelerates dehydration. So as a result, your cardiovascular system has to work extra overtime just to help you stay cool. Add in the lack of shade around World Showcase, the water of World Showcase Lagoon reflecting sunlight on your skin, and the fact that you probably forgot to drink water for about half the day, and you have this recipe for burnout. Oh, and don't forget that parent factor, right? You're acting as a pack mule for your kids, pushing a stroller all day, lifting up your 30-pound toddler in and out of the stroller, walking upwards of 20,000 steps on the hard concrete. The problem isn't that you just get tired. It's that you unknowingly push your body into a physiological deficit. By the time you feel any pain or exhaustion, it's probably too late. You've already felt like you're going to crash. And when parents crash, the magic stops. The patient runs thin. The body aches. They start to flare up. And then suddenly, what's supposed to be the best vacation ever feels more like a boot camp that you didn't sign up for. But now I want you to imagine the alternative. Imagine setting foot into France Pavilion at 7 in the evening and you actually have the energy to walk around comfortably. Imagine waking up the next morning afterwards at your resort without the feeling like your plantar fasciitis is acting up or your low back is not stiff anymore and you're just ready to hit the ground running to get over to Magic Kingdom. When you approach the parks with a strategy, treating it more like an endurance event, you protect your own experience. You preserve your own mood. You have the bandwidth to handle toddler breakdowns and meltdowns because you are not having a physical meltdown yourself. As a doctor of physical therapy, I often explain to my own patients that physical resilience is directly tied to emotional regulation. When your lower back is throbbing or your plantar fascia feels like it's on fire, your fuse for toddler melodrama becomes significantly shorter. However, a strong, conditioned body gives you more of that patience buffer. It allows you to handle a meltdown in the middle of World Showcase with grace because then your own body isn't screaming for relief at the same time. Being park ready also means that you have the endurance to last until the fireworks without needing to tap out. The magic of Disney often happens in the margins, in the cracks. That spontaneous dance party, that extra ride on Frozen Ever After because your kids wanted to go on again and there was like a 5-minute wait. Or that late night stroll around the lagoon, just taking one more little victory lap before heading out. If you're physically wrecked, you're going to look for the nearest park bench or the bus stop, and you end up missing those core memories that happen in the margins. Finally, a fit body simply recovers faster. Let's face it, a Disney vacation is a multi-day endurance event. If you wake up on day 2 feeling stiff and sore, you start your day at a deficit. A conditioned body clears metabolic waste efficiently, meaning you wake up ready to rope drop again and again, keeping the magic alive for your kids without having to rely on a breakfast of ibuprofen. Staying fit and prepping your body for the parks is not about vanity. It's about longevity. It's about making sure you're actually present to make those memories with your kids. Before we get on to specific tips on how to navigate the EPCOT International Flower Garden Festival, I want to highlight a few common roadblocks that I see parents hit during the festival season. These are the mistakes that will ultimately derail you in the end. Roadblock number 1, it's the sugar and sodium spike. It's easy to really get caught up in the foodie culture of EPCOT. You see content creators on Instagram recommending a lot of different foods to try at all of the festivals. And then suddenly you have this mental checklist of like 15 different snacks and foods that you just need to try. But eating heavy, salty, and sugary foods back to back to back without regulation is a physiological trap. When you consume high glycemic treats followed by high sodium savory dishes, your body goes on a roller coaster. You get this massive blood sugar spike that feels like a ton of energy. I mean, because it is, but then it's eventually followed by a reactive crash. This leaves you jittery, irritable, and suddenly just exhausted. Simultaneously, the excess sodium causes water retention, which can exacerbate swelling in your lower extremities, like your feet and ankles, which feels even worse in the Florida heat and humidity. So you aren't just feeling full, you're systematically slowing your body down. Roadblock number 2, underestimating those invisible drains. Far too often, we ignore what's going on inside our own body and instead pay attention to what hurts on the outside. So, for example, you might push through that foot pain and keep walking, but you can't necessarily push through physiologically what's going on inside the rest of the body. Those invisible drains like the Florida heat and humidity or the massive change in diet that happens because you're eating a bunch of different foods at EPCOT, those can sap your energy much faster than walking does. When you sweat in high humidity, your sweat doesn't evaporate efficiently, meaning because the sweat stays more on your skin, your body builds up internal heat. To cool down, your body starts to pump blood away from your muscles and instead towards your skin. This means your working muscles get less oxygen, leading to more fatigue, basically making your legs feel a lot more heavy. Ignoring this biological reality is the fastest way to hit the wall. Roadblock number 3, the rope drop to fireworks mentality. This is a combination of the fear of missing out and logistical chaos. Parents often feel like they must maximize their ticket price by staying from open to close, but they rarely think about the mental load of decision fatigue. This is most obvious during festivals because you get overwhelmed by the sheer number of food choices. Without a plan, you end up playing food booth pinball, if you will. You see a line for Mexico, you skip it. You walk all the way to Germany to get something, but then you realize you forgot to get something in Norway, so you double back. And then you do that over and over again, essentially zigzagging across World Showcase, adding a ton of just, I don't want to call it junk steps, but extra steps to your day. In the end, you're wasting precious energy that can be used more efficiently somewhere else. And on top of that, you're putting more load on your body, your joints, your tendons, your muscles, without actually necessarily increasing your fun in the same amount. This sort of boom and bust cycle is guaranteed to lead you to injury and leads you to exactly how you end up crashing by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, now how do we actually tackle the EPCOT International Flower Garden Festival without burning out? Here is your 5-step action plan for the Flower and Garden Festival. Tip number 1, have a tactical food plan. It's really easy to get caught up in Instagram-worthy treats, but eating without some sort of strategy leads to 2 issues: an uncomfortably full stomach and zigzagging, which leads to fatigue that we talked about earlier. So, what's the fix? Prioritize your list. Pick your top 3 to 4 foods and drinks for the entire day. A smaller list gives you a lot more flexibility and wiggle room so that by the time you show up to EPCOT and you start seeing a food that you really like that you didn't think you would like when you were looking things up online, you can actually get that food without feeling guilty or without having that extra bloat at the end of the day. More importantly, use that Flower and Garden Festival booklet to map your route. Group your food stops geographically to eliminate backtracking and zigzagging. This is energy conservation 101. Save your legs for the end of the day when you have to pick up your kids and carry them down to the bus, not for walking to a food booth that you passed 20 minutes ago. Tip number 2, use those food booths as stretch stations. This is a real big one. It's really easy to grab and go. Get that food, eat it real quick, and move on to the next. At Disney, you are spending hours standing on hard concrete, interspersed with walking. This combination can get you prone to stiffness, soreness, that aching back. Most people tend to eat on the go, walking and chewing, which really denies their body a moment to really reset. So, how do you fix this? Use those food booths as a trigger for recovery. Instead of saying thank you next to your piece of food that you just bought, take an extra 30 seconds to perform a standing stretch while you're in line. It really doesn't take too much, because then if you add up those stretches when you're at different food booths throughout the day, you really boost your body's ability to recover. You could stretch your calves against a wall or a stanchion, or do some sort of standing back bend while you're waiting for your order to relieve some pressure. Your body is going to thank you at the end of the day when you have that extra kick of energy during the fireworks. Tip number 3, respect the hydration. This is a real big one. Dehydration is really the silent killer of Disney energy. Now that temperatures are warming up and the humidity is going back up, when you're dehydrated, your blood volume decreases, which causes your heart rate to spike just to keep you moving on and on. This can lead to headache, cramping, and that cranky parent feeling. So, how do you fix this? Well, you need a specific number to hit. On a warm day at Epcot, men should aim for about 150 ounces of water and women about 100 ounces of water. That might sound like a lot, but this is necessary to replace what you are losing to sweat and humidity. Utilize those free water refill stations at Epcot to keep your bottle topped up. And if you want to know where those water stations are, I've got an interactive map on www.fitforthemagic.com/WDW making it easy for you to find the next water station. Remember, by the time you feel thirsty, you are already dehydrated. Tip number 4, you gotta protect your skin to protect your energy. As a healthcare professional, I need you to hear this. Sunburn is a systemic injury. When you have a sunburn, which typically happens from UVB rays, your body diverts fluid and blood to the skin to start healing it. This mimics dehydration, and you can feel it as headaches, fatigue, maybe even dry mouth. So, how do you fix this? Make sure to use a broad spectrum sunscreen. Reapply every few hours. Make sure to wear a hat so you're covering your scalp, and maybe even consider wearing a bucket hat so that you're covering your neck too. And then use a cooling towel, especially in these warmer months. If you keep your core temperature down, your heart rate stays a little bit lower and you have more energy at the end of the day. Okay, tip number 5. Find those hidden gems, especially at the Flower and Garden Festival. Use them as a mental reset. With the spring break crowds coming in, your stress hormone levels can spike, which increases your perception of pain. If you feel like you're just battling crowds all day, your body's going to start to tighten up, and that can also increase muscle tension. How do you fix this? You want to reset your nervous system. You need to escape the visual noise. Seek out those hidden gems at the festival, those quiet garden destinations that are tucked away from the main walkways. So certain destinations that I like to find, there's the UK Pavilion, there's that English tea garden. Over in France Pavilion, there's the Bouquet Garden, which is absolutely beautiful. Over in Japan Pavilion, you've got a few places like the Kokedama Garden or the Bonsai Collection. Both places are so fun to just walk around. And sometimes they get a few people there, but it never really feels like it's super crowded. And then in the Mexico Pavilion, you have these extraordinary orchids in display on the ramp walkway to get inside the pyramid that not very often people like to navigate. There's even a hidden topiary gem in Germany Pavilion. So if you actually go outside the main entrance of Germany Pavilion, you've got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs just across the entrance, closer to the lagoon. It's almost always less crowded there. Simply taking 5 or 10 minutes in these quieter zones allows your nervous system to calm down, to rest. And then that way, your heart rate starts lowering, and then you can prepare yourself for the next round of fun towards the end of the day. In the end, the goal of a Disney vacation isn't just to survive it, it's to thrive in it. You want to be the parent that's able to chase their kids around the hub grass, not the parent that's desperately searching for a bench because their back started locking up. Navigating the EPCOT International Flower and Garden Festival without that dreaded Disney hangover is entirely possible. It doesn't require you to skip the food or the fun. It just requires respect for your own body and what it's capable of. By understanding those sugar spikes, hydration, and those extra steps that affect your energy, you can make smarter choices that keep your tank full and so you can last until the fireworks. And listen, Epcot, yes, it's really magical, but it's also a marathon in the end. It is an endurance event. You wouldn't run a marathon without training, so why would you walk 20,000 steps carrying a toddler without preparing your own body for it? If you're planning a trip and you're worried that your knees, your back, or your stamina might let you down, I want you to check out my one-on-one Disney Prep Rehab and Strengthening program. It's specifically designed to target the muscles that you use in the parks. That way you have more endurance with walking, more tolerance to stand on the concrete while waiting for rides, and so that you have confidence in constantly lifting up your kids. Let's get you strong before you get to Disney. If that sounds like what you need in your next trip, head over to the link in the show notes to schedule a discovery call. Now, if you love what you hear and you want to learn more, I suggest you head over to fitforthemagic.com, where you can find your free guide, 15 must-have items for a pain-free Disney trip. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with anyone that might benefit from it. And of course, please leave a rating or review in your favorite podcast app if you enjoyed the show. This helps me tremendously as I move forward with more episodes to come. I hope you'll tune in to learn more about how to have a pain-free, soreness-free, and exhaustion-free vacation so that you can make more magical memories with your loved ones.